Rise Up Radio Show back at you, this time with some reprehensible news coming out of St. Louis. This is KSDK, the I-Team, their investigative team, really covering some scary facts about American history. The headline is, The Army's Secret Cold War Experiments on St. Louisians. Lisa Martino Taylor is a sociologist whose life work has been to uncover details of the Army's ultra-secret military experiments carried out in St. Louis and other cities during the 1950s and 60s. She will make her research public Tuesday, which is today, but she spoke first to the I-Team's Lisa Zigman. The I-Team independently verified that the spraying of zinc cadmium sulfide did take place in St. Louis on thousands of unsuspecting citizens. What is unclear is whether the Army added a radioactive material to the compound, as Martino Taylor's research implies. The study was secretive for a reason, she said. They didn't have volunteers stepping up and saying, all breathe zinc cadmium sulfite with radioactive particles. So this much of this information came out through Freedom of Information Act requests, and it's interesting where the spraying was taking place. This says a lot about the U.S. Army and the United States government as well, the federal government especially. Martino Taylor says the greatest concentration was centered on the Pruitt-Ego housing complex just northwest downtown of St. Louis in the Carr Square neighborhood. It was home to 10,000 low-income people. An estimated 70%, she says, were children under the age of 12. So, the unfortunate thing is we find in American history, this is certainly not the first time that the U.S. government has secretly tested and experimented on its own people, on American citizens. The Tuskegee Air experiments, for example, where African-American soldiers were given syphilis. That's fact and well documented. Additionally, when it comes to community water fluoridation, there were actually tests that took place back in the 50s or 60s in hospitals where, unbeknownst to the patient, they would be pushing fluorine on them. And they also did this radiation as well, being pushed on the patients without their knowledge whatsoever. So unfortunately, America seems to have a rich history of this type of treachery, and obviously it flies in the face of the Hippocratic Oath. But it's a shame that this was done to low-income families. Likely, perhaps they targeted low-income families, thinking that the low-income families would not be able to put up a defense or fight this if they found out that it took place. And here we are finding out about it. It was in the 60s, 70s, finding out about it 40 years later, 50 years later. So, again, the headline is, The Army's Secret Cold War Experiments on St. Louisians. Documents released in the 90s showed the Army placed sprayers on a former Knights of Columbus building on Lindell and in Forest Park. The Army always insisted the chemical compound was safe. Martino Taylor believes documents prove otherwise. There's a lot of evidence that shows people in St. Louis and the city, and particularly minority communities, were subjected to military testing that was connected to larger radiological weapons testing project. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Some treacherous news, some reprehensible news. That's KSDK.com. The Army's Secret Cold War Experiments. There's a professor at a community college that is uncovering some nasty secrets, and we're exposing that here on the Rise Up Radio Show. Again, riseupradio.com. Peace and freedom.